Hey, hi, hello, friends. I know it's been a while since we've had a YouTube video, but I'm streaming live on Twitch right now as I'm recording this, and we are going to do my 2025 reading wrapped, but we're also going to do my 2025 reading tier list. In 2025, I read 27 books, as you see on the screen over here. I read 27 books. My goal is 12 books. Every year, I keep my goal at 12 books because for me, I feel like that's a very realistic goal to read essentially one book a month. I'm a mom now. If you guys haven't seen my socials in a while, I'm a mom. My daughter is almost 14 months now, and I have time to read, but I also don't have a lot of time to read. I work full time. I actually work a condensed work schedule, so I actually work like 9 to 10 hour work days, and then I have one extra day off every 2 weeks. So, um, yeah, we're gonna do my 2025 reading wrapped. Just so you guys know, I made this all in Canva. I absolutely love Canva, and I took all my stats from Goodreads and Storygraph and combined them all into here, and I remade the charts and graphs on my own in Canva. I've had a lot of people ask me about how to make them this pretty, and I did it myself. It took me hours, but I did it yesterday, and I'm very happy and proud of the results. So let's get into it. Part of the reason why I also didn't take stuff from directly from Goodreads or Storygraph is because one, it wasn't pretty. Doesn't match my color scheme that I wanted for this post. And two, my stats were a little messed up because Goodreads and Storygraph, they finish like the reading wrap up like December 30th or something. Obviously, there's 31 days in December, and I'm the kind of person where I am racing against the clock on New Year's Eve to finish a book because I like to start off my new year with a clean slate, a new book. I don't like books to carry over unless I absolutely have to. A couple years ago, I literally sat there reading until midnight to finish a book. And I did. 11:59 p.m. I finished it. So, let's get into it. That's another reason why I had to do this all from scratch myself. Okay, let's go to page 2. Pages and books read per month. I made this myself. The blue line shows the books read each month of the year, and pink is the number of pages that I read. So as you guys can see, I had some fluctuations throughout the year. January, I started off strong, was like really reading a lot of books, really picking up a lot of stuff. But then I kind of fell off around March and kind of picked back up in the summer again, and then fell off again, and then picked back up. So let's talk about that. Part of the reason why I was reading a lot of books in January was because I was still postpartum. I was about to go back to work and I was looking for some stuff to do at home. And I realized instead of doom scrolling forever and online shopping and watching way too much Twitch, I should probably just read a book. So that's when I picked up a lot of books. I was having a lot of fun with it. I was reading a lot of stuff while nursing my baby. She nursed a lot. So it just made sense to read books. It was great. Did it when I was reading while I was nursing. I also did a lot of walking on the treadmill. I read a lot for that. I was home. It made sense. I went back mid to end of January to work. So naturally, February, I read a lot less. I was still trying to keep up with it, trying to figure out a schedule. I was reading when I was pumping while I was working because I had like a half an hour every like 3-ish hours at work where I was pumping. So I got to read books. Still got some reading in, but obviously didn't get as much. My work was on my butt about work and trying to make sure that we were doing a lot of inspections and stuff. So it was kind of a pain, but I managed to get it done, but obviously it started to drop off. In March, I was reading a little bit. I think I read like maybe one book. Honestly, I was just kind of started reading a book and got kind of bored. I think I was reading Sunrise on the Reaping, and it just like wasn't super interesting to me, even though it's another Hunger Games book. I just was kind of done with the same story. So I just kind of got bored, kind of fell into a bit of a slump. And then obviously it, as you can see in the chart, around July, I picked back up. That's when I started doing some inspections for work. I was doing a lot of work. I had a lot of drive time. So I started listening to audiobooks again, and I had some friends recommend some things to me, and I picked some books up, kind of got back into it. And then as you can see, September, I fell off. I forget what I picked up in August, but there was a book that just didn't didn't do much for me. And it kind of put me into a reading slump for a while, and I couldn't find anything that was like interesting that I wanted to read. Nothing felt fun. I think like September, October is when I DNF'd a lot of books. I was trying to pick stuff up, but I had to keep DNFing. And there were a lot of things I just said maybe I'll try again later, but just couldn't get into anything. And then last month, I guess, November for me, it feels like, I guess it's technically 2 months ago. I started picking up books again. I got into some things, tried to pick up some cutesy short romances, and like got back into reading. And then in December, I realized I like thrillers. So we started reading a lot of thrillers, a lot of Frida McFadden, and that's where those numbers come from. So yeah, as you can see, it was quite a roller coaster of a year. I expect nothing less of this year, but we'll see what happens. Oopsies. Let's go to my popular genres of 2025. As you can see, I read a lot of romance. This is a graph that came from Storygraph, the app. And just so you guys know, because I know the numbers here are not going to add up, one book can be categorized in multiple different genres or categories. So if I read Funny Story, where is it? Funny Story, it could be considered young adult, but it could also be considered romance. So that's why these numbers don't add up to the numbers of books that I read this year. So romance was pretty popular. I was really, really loving romance books. I'm obviously Emily Henry, Ashley Poston, and some other short romances I tried. This is where we're at. I just realized I didn't do something for the tier list that I have to do. We'll do that later. I guess we don't even have the DNF. Wow, that's gonna be fun later. Okay, so romance was my top. I guess contemporary. I guess I like that. I don't even really know what that means, but it's here. Fantasy. As you guys know, the year before I was really big on fantasy. Last year I just really wasn't feeling it. I read a few and just none of them really clicked with me. So I don't know. Maybe I'm not a fantasy girl anymore. I don't know. Read some young adult. Again, I think a lot of those were more like palate cleansers, but still some fun, cutesy little books. And then thrillers. Again, Frida McFadden. I cannot say no to Frida McFadden. My top authors, if you couldn't guess. Emily Henry, Ashley Poston, and Frida McFadden last year. I read 3 books by each of these authors last year. They were all tied for first. If I had to choose the order of my favorites, it would go Emily, Ashley, Frida. There you go. Those are my favorites. I will buy anything that Emily Henry writes. I will buy anything that Ashley Poston writes. And I'm still exploring all of the Frida McFadden books, so I cannot say for sure that I would read all of her books, but I'm starting to explore a few more. So I will get back to you. All of her stuff is available on Kindle Unlimited, and that is currently where I'm reading all her books. So again, I'll get back to you on that in a later video. My average rating for books this year. I was a tough critic this year, okay? I only rated one book a 5-star book, okay? We had a couple like 4 stars, but the ones that were 4 didn't feel like they were absolutely amazing, like they were just gonna stick with me, so they didn't get 5 stars. Everybody else, I kind of felt like they were in the mid-range. They kind of felt like about 3 stars. Nothing felt exceptional. Nothing felt super lacking, except a couple books this year. I was just winging it. Okay? So here are all the books that I actually read. These are all the covers. I did not include the ones that I DNF'd. I'm gonna have to pull up that list because I forgot to do it. So that's gonna be fun for you guys. I'm actually gonna pull them up right now. The nice part about Storygraph is that it has a reading journal, so I can see all of my activity throughout all of 2025. And we can kind of get into it, and we can kind of talk about a lot of different things. But yeah, there's a lot of authors I ended up DNFing, and I probably won't pick up again, which is kind of sad and kind of awkward. But yeah, these are all the books that I read. So let me close this out. Let's get over to the next one. Okay, we are back. We are recording again for YouTube. I had to do some editing really quick and take a quick break. But we're going to go over my 2025 tier list, and we're going to talk about all the books that I read, all the books I DNF'd, and talk about my ratings. And we're just going to go through this as quick as possible. And then since we're live on stream, we will talk about this all afterwards. We'll talk about the specifics after I've gotten through it. We good, guys? Ready? This is the tier list for my 2025 reads. So, going in order from the top to the bottom, those are the books I read in order. I already filled in all of the DNF books, so let's go over those very, very quickly. Again, these are in no particular order. I should order them later. Not a now problem. I DNF'd Immortal by Su Lin Tan. It's more of a pause. I will come back to this book. I think it has great potential. I just was kind of in a reading slump, as you guys saw in the earlier part of this video. I was just not up for reading a lot of books at that time, and I tried to use this as a way to get me back into it, and I just fell further into a reading slump. So currently it is a DNF. I'm hoping this year I can pick it back up because I really, really like Su Lin Tan's books. So that was kind of sad. You guys heard me talk about this one on my Twitch channel. It's called The Dance of Darkness and Light. It is written by somebody I went to college with. I wanted to like it. I just couldn't get myself into it. Kind of the same thing. I think I was just going to pause it and come back to it. I just wasn't the biggest fan of the writing style. It just wasn't something that was fitting for me. And it may just not be the right book for me, but I had to DNF it. Couldn't really do it. A Foul Match. It is I think this was a debut author. I had found her on Threads, and she offered to give me an arc to read the book and post a review. And honestly, I couldn't get through it. I couldn't read through it. I think I talked about it in my Discord a little bit. I was having issues with the writing. I just felt like, kind of like the other book I talked about at the beginning of stream, I felt like it just wasn't very refined, and it just, the sentences weren't flowing, and I constantly felt like I was just sitting there with the author, like, you're making things way too obvious. Like, oh, he said with such a gruff tone. Wow, why is his voice so gruff? Like, you don't need to go into that. There were also a couple times when the character was being sarcastic, and then she added, "Oh, he said it sarcastically." Like, and then like the female character was like, "Why are you being so sarcastic right now?" It's like, we get it. We get it. There's like sarcasm that's happening. Like, you don't need to point it out. You don't need to make things so obvious as if we're all stupid. I hate to say that because the author was very nice online, but I do think that with time, the premise of the story was like great, you know? I think that there was a great story there. I just think that the way she went about this, I was like, I'm gonna fight you. Just kidding. I was just like, I couldn't get through it. And then because it was an arc, literally at the end of every chapter, it said like, oh, this was an advanced reader copy only for, and it had my email address in it. I get that, but that was a little weird to me, and it kind of creeped me out. So that kind of like kept taking me out of the story, and I kind of stopped. I think it was like 20 or 30% in. I couldn't do it. Sorry, guys. I felt really bad. Again, great story, just the writing itself was kind of juvenile, kind of elementary. I feel like it's something I would have written in like 8th grade, because even by high school, I feel like my reading was better than, like reading and writing was better than that. So anyway, moving on. Allie Hazelwood. Oh my gosh, you see, there are 2 Allie Hazelwood books here. There's Love Theoretically and Bride. Bride is Allie Hazelwood's first romance fantasy book. It's like her first time branching out into fantasy, and people rave about this. I tried so hard to get into it, and I just couldn't get into it. I couldn't picture the characters. I couldn't picture the storyline. When I read a book like this, I kind of create like a movie scene in my head when I'm reading to kind of set the scene, set the mood, all of that, and like visualize the characters. I couldn't do that here. None of it was setting in for me, so I had to DNF it. And I actually had a physical copy. I sold the book. I don't intend to pick it up again. I loved some of Allie Hazelwood's other books. I just couldn't get behind this one. I originally thought she was going to be an auto-buy author for me, and she is no longer on that list. If you want a list of auto-buy authors, I will make that for you, but I'm wanting to get a little further into my reading journey before I make that list so that we can have a solid list. Okay, Love Theoretically. I've read The Love Hypothesis. I've read Love Theoretically. As you guys see on this list, I also read Deep End by Ali Hazelwood this year. I read a couple things by her. Check and Mate. Sorry, Sounds Like Love is covering those books. But there's a couple on the shelf behind this one. I've read a lot of Ali Hazelwood. Not a lot, but I guess a few things. And at first I really liked her story, but then when I picked up Love Theoretically, I felt like I was put back into The Love Hypothesis. I felt like we were just having the same story over and over again, and I don't love that. I like Check and Mate because it was something different, and it was still like a woman in STEM, but like a different part of STEM. And I feel like with Love Theoretically and The Love Hypothesis, even Deep End, I feel like the female main characters are basically the author, and that's what I've heard a lot of criticism about, is that the author basically started off as a fanfic author writing online, and then she's pretty much inserting herself into these stories, and that's what I felt like it was. Because I believe she's a Stanford graduate. She has a degree, like a PhD in like, I think it's biology or something in the health sciences. And a lot of her settings are her old campuses and like the schools that she's been to, or whatever she's worked at or graduated from. It just feels like her, and it feels weird, and it just feels like the same story being told over and over. Also, the female main character in this book specifically, I was listening to it in an audiobook and I was trying to read it on my Kindle. I go back and forth when I'm reading a book. I felt like this author, the female main character, was actually just very anxiety inducing. She was constantly talking, like the way I'm talking right now. She was talking very quickly and just never ending thoughts. And listening to the audiobooks by this author, audiobooks by Ali Hazelwood, all of the audiobooks have a lot of you're following always the female main character, and the female main characters have a lot of inner monologue that's happening, and it's very difficult to differentiate between what is the inner monologue versus when does the female main character suddenly begin speaking. Wow, I'm such a piece of shit. I really hate myself. I'm just like the worst person. I just have no self-esteem. Oh, hey, how you doing today? And then like she just like keeps going in her inner monologue, and I'm like, did you just talk? And this is the audiobook. When you're reading the book, you know. But that was bothering me. But the female main character's inner monologue is constantly about self-deprecation and having absolutely no self-esteem, no self-confidence. Nothing, just constantly degrading themselves. And they are essentially, like, I can't think of the word for it, but like the female main character, she is her own downfall. Apparently each of the female main characters, they are the hottest, sexiest women out there, the smartest women, because they're women in STEM. And they just, they sit there and like hate on themselves internally, and I just couldn't do it. I just felt like I was reading the same thing over and over, because I had read Deep End and then I tried to pick up Love Theoretically later in the year, and it just felt like the inner monologue of the female main character in Deep End, it just felt the same as here, which then reminded me of the Love Hypothesis, Check and Mate, and some of the other characters. It just follows the same type of plot. Like, they're very predictable once you figure out Ali Hazelwood's writing. So unfortunately, the one I was going to read after this, which I never actually picked up, which is why it's not in the DNF list, was Love on the Brain. It's another one of Ali Hazelwood's earlier books. I sold it. It was on my shelf. I sold it. It's gone. Unfortunately. So that's gone bye-bye. Love Light Farms. B.K. Borison. If you've seen the book First Time Caller, it is very popular on YouTube, BookTube, TikTok, all of the above. I found this. People raved about it. I think Katie has read it, and like she liked it. So I figured, let me try it out. I was bored out of my mind, and I posted about it, and some people actually agreed with me. I just felt like nothing was happening. It's supposed to be a little cutesy love story, and I just felt like people said it was supposed to be like a Hallmark love story. The entire time, I got like, I think almost 50% of the way through, maybe further, and I DNF'd it because it was a quick read as well. Very quick. I just felt that there was no chemistry between the female main character and the male main character. I didn't feel chemistry. I didn't feel like they belonged together, even though I think that that's where the book was destined to go, was to put them together. It was a whole like fake dating trope relationship thing. And the entire time I'm just sitting there thinking like, girl, go find somebody else. And then I read the reviews for the book, and a lot of people agreed that it was very boring. But I also saw where people also said the same thing, like they didn't think that the two characters that ended up together had any chemistry. Also, the male main character, the other thing about him, which could have contributed to why I didn't think they had any chemistry, was that he didn't have a personality. There was like no personality there either. So I was like really struggling to imagine these two characters together. Like I said, I couldn't imagine it. I think it was a great story, has great potential, but I don't think it was written well. And I don't know when this author wrote this or like how many books she's wrote before this, but I did not like it. And I didn't realize that it was the same author who wrote First Time Caller, and now I'm like, it's on my TBR, but now I'm kind of like, I don't know if I want to read that. Because other people who have tried to read Love Light Farms said that First Time Caller is the exact same way and it felt very boring. And I know people like the boring books where nothing really happens. They're looking for more of those cozy reads. This was a little too cozy to the point where like I could just fall asleep in the middle of it, and I was like, I'm over it. So, kick to the curb. I'm so upset that I wasted that much time on it. It was like one day, but the fact that I wasted a day and we got almost, I think we might have gotten halfway and I had to DNF it. Like, that is sad. Should never happen. Credence. I've watched a whole bunch of stories, YouTube videos and stuff about this book. I knew what it was. I knew how it was going to end. Going into it, I physically could not get into it. I tried. I got a couple chapters in and I was like, all of this just doesn't make sense. Like, there is absolutely no logic. There is no reason in the world that this girl who's almost 17 is gonna go live with her uncle and cousins that she's never met in her entire life. Like, at 17 years old and being like, I think she was like 6 months away from turning 18. In no realistic sense would she be forced, like no child protective services would force her to go live with relatives she's never met at 17 and a half years old. 17 and a half. I also know that there's a lot of other fucked up shit that happens in that book, so we're not going into it. But I couldn't do it. Just the logic was killing me. And the writing was not good either. Because I actually read that I tried to do it on my Kindle. I couldn't do it. We DNF'd it. We talked about Bride. I'm not going back there. Fathom Folk. I was really excited about this because, again, I've heard really good reviews. I have some college friends who have told me to read it, and I couldn't get into it. It was boring AF. I couldn't do it. I'm so sorry. Please sue me. Couldn't do it. It was very political. If you're somebody who's into like a fantasy book where they talk a lot about politics and like history of the world, I guess, it's maybe better for you. I couldn't do it. It was very boring to me. I didn't understand the politics. I didn't care about the politics. I didn't fully understand the world in general. And there were things happening, but I also felt like things weren't happening. And I think I got like 30% through. 30% is usually where I DNF if I hate it. If I get to 50, that means I'm really trying, but I can't do it. It was just boring for me. I think for other people, maybe it's better. For me, I couldn't do it. So, yeah. That is my DNF pile. That is a lot more than I was intending on having for this year. So let's move on. First book I read this year, Light Lark by Alex Astor. It was okay. I rated it 3 stars. One of my friends has read it. She told me it was great. She loved it. She loves the series. I thought it was good. I didn't think it was amazing, but I'm going to put it in B tier. Ow, I just kicked my chair. It's okay. It didn't do anything for me. It was a fantasy. It was a cutesy little romance, a little love triangle, but As you can see, it continues. With Nightbane, it continues. And just like ACOTAR, because we talked about this a few years ago, ACOTAR was intended to be a 3-book series. Same thing with Lightlark. The author continued it because she got a book deal. I didn't like that. I just feel like the love triangle continues forever and it just never ends, and I hated it. So, Lightlark itself, A-okay. Is it amazing? No. Would I reread it? No. I definitely had some issues with the book. I think it has more to do with the author, but I will talk about that later when we get through some other books. We'll talk about it. I just couldn't do it. Then next, I picked up Emily Henry, People We Meet on Vacation. This is the one being currently made into a movie. I rated it 3 stars. I feel like it was just okay. I like Emily Henry. Her stories are very predictable. They're great palette cleansers. I love them. They're very light and airy. They have some heavy topics, but they're very light and airy. Overall, it just kind of feels that way to me. I would also put this in B. I think I'm going to put that in B tier. I think it could be better. I just felt like I didn't love the relationship between Alex and Poppy. They had chemistry, but I feel like it was one of those where like they were just constantly denying their feelings for each other, and I'm like, please stop. I'm over it. I hated it. I hated that part of it, at least. But again, I think it was one of Emily Henry's earlier books, so she just... Happy Place. You're gonna hate me. I'm putting that in C tier. I liked it. I gave it 3 stars. Again, Emily Henry. I love Emily Henry. Please don't get me wrong. The issue I had, again, maybe it's an earlier work of hers. I just felt like the title of the book is Happy Place. The female main character was constantly saying like, just go to your happy place. Just go to your happy place. Just go to your happy place. And I'm just like, shut up. Shut up. Like, stop saying it over and over. It was really bothering me. I also find with Emily Henry, a lot of her characters, the female main characters are kind of like Allie Hazelwood's, where they kind of downplay how hot they are, how great they are, how they do XYZ. And I just feel like these 2 characters here, they didn't want to admit that they should be together, even though they were, but weren't. Whole thing, again, kind of like a sort of fake dating situation. Just... they were there. Also, I realized I did not go over the tiers S, A, B, and C, and then D for D and F. That's where we're at. Yeah, I feel like nobody ever goes into other categories. That's what we're doing. Happily Never After by Lynn Painter. I thought it was really cute. It was very short. I think I finished it in like a day. Very cutesy, little smutty here and there. I don't know. It's there. Do I remember the book? Yes, but do I like really remember the book? Not really. That's why it's going there. I can't tell you much because I don't remember much about it. I remember it's like a fake dating trope where they basically go to weddings together and try to stop them, and they object at weddings. I'm pretty sure that's the premise. But again, I don't remember much about it. So if I don't remember much, it's going there. One-star romance. Again, I gave it 3 stars. I gave a lot of these 3 stars. I don't remember anything about this story. So it was good. Again, it's a very cutesy little palette cleanser. Something to read in between other books, but I don't remember it. I do remember I liked it, but I don't remember it. Oh yeah, there was something to do with the female main character that I really hated about her. Oh, she's an author, and she published a book, and she's like obsessed with the ratings on her book, and somebody gave her a 1 star, and she's trying to figure out who it is. She finds out who it is, and then she gets really pissed at the guy, and she just has like this burning hate for this guy who gave her a 1-star review for the entire book, and she just like never gets over it. It really annoyed me. It was a good story, but it really annoyed me. But as you can tell, not something I'm gonna remember off the top of my head, so we're just gonna... Okay, Onyx Storm. You guys are gonna hate me. I wish I put it here. I was so disappointed in Onyx Storm. I was so disappointed. I was so upset. Maybe I'll make a new tier when we're done later. I was so upset by this. I love the Empyrean series. If you know, I've read the books. I loved 1 and 2. They were absolutely amazing. I raved about them. They were a roller coaster of emotions. They were the best thing ever. Here's my problem. Onyx Storm. Again, same thing like other books. It was only supposed to be 3 books. The author got a deal. She's writing 5 books in the series now. And I've finally caught up, so I'm reading them as they come out. Onyx Storm is a filler book. It is a world-building filler book. Nothing happens. Like, I'm not gonna spoil it for you. I'm not gonna give you spoilers. There's gonna be no spoilers for any of this. You finish Iron Flame, and you are stuck with a problem. You finish Onyx Storm, you still have the exact same problems. Just one new problem. It's a big thing. But suddenly you have this whole new problem. It's basically, Onyx Storm was like the world building book. It was just adding stuff. It was just a filler book. They went on a whole side quest that I don't think is going to have anything to do with the rest of the books. I'm sure the author is going to make connections for the later books, but this one didn't have the same roller coaster of emotions as the first 2 books. It didn't have the same momentum, and you could tell that she fell off with this book. It just wasn't there for me. It was a huge miss, and I hated it. Honestly, I still gave it 3 stars because the writing was still very, very well done, and I appreciate that. I just hated it. And if you don't know this author, she always ends this whole series. Every single book is on a cliffhanger, so you want to pick up the next. I don't want to pick up the next now. That's how you know it's bad. If I read it and I don't want to pick up the next. So 3 stars, great writing. I just don't care to actually pick it up and read it. So here we are. Next is Nightbane. I think we're going to put it here. I also did not give a shit about this. Nightbane. It is the 2nd book of the Lightlark series. As you guys saw, Lightlark was the first book I read. I read the 2nd book in the series because I was curious to continue with the series and see if I could keep reading some fantasy romance. The love triangle didn't end. I don't remember anything about this book to talk about to you guys. I just know that the love triangle still happened. Same thing like Onyx Storm. Nothing was solved in this book. We have a whole new set of problems now. And I even heard, and this is kind of maybe why I stopped, the 3rd book in the series is called Skyshade, and I've heard it is horrible. I've heard people complain about it. People complain that they think the author is just like writing things too quickly and she's not really taking the time to like seriously sit down and think it over. And she's just like writing it just to pump out the content because she's got this book deal. And it kind of shows. The writing style was not great. I didn't love it. And again, I just felt like it was just a repeat of the first book and nothing new was really happening. And I also just couldn't really picture the world and where we were at. So I thought that was interesting, which we'll talk about later. The next book, The Dead Romantics. I liked it. I know, does that go? I'm gonna put that in A tier. I liked it. I liked it. It was so cute. Ashley Poston. Basically, it's a love story. Ashley writes love stories that are kind of have like this magic realism element to it. And basically, this girl, she can see the ghost of this person who may or may not be dead. And it's kind of like this like whole little love story between them two. And I just thought it was the most adorable thing ever. I thought the whole premise behind it was very, very cute. Therefore, it gets A tier. The Midnight Library. So if you guys remember my previous review where I talked about the The Husbands by Holly Gramazio, where like different men, like she would send a guy up into the attic and a husband would come out and she could just send them up and get new husbands. that whole idea of like one change in your life could send you down all these different paths. The Midnight Library is kind of similar to that, and apparently Matt Haig, I think that's how you say his name, he writes a lot of books that are very similar to like this whole magical realism element. I liked it. Would I say it was the best read I've ever had? No. That's why it's going in A tier. I liked the ending to this. I felt it was better than The Husbands, and I felt like it was a more complete circle, and I like that. But it also like wasn't my like 5-star read of the year, so unfortunately that's where that goes. Sunrise on the Reaping. Sorry, it's behind my head. Also, you guys are about to get an ad if you're on Twitch. Sunrise on the Reaping. I really liked it. I just felt like it was like any other Hunger Games book. It literally was the exact same. It follows the same type of Hunger Games cycle, getting reaped and that and this and President Snow and all that. I didn't think it was anything new. I can see where the author was trying to make connections to the other books, including Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and I just didn't. I still gave it a 4-star rating, but I just think it fell a little bit flat for me, so that's why I'm putting it in the B tier. I just think it could have been better. I think that there was a lot of potential, and I think the author was trying too hard to make it too similar to the other books in the Hunger Games series. If you are thinking of reading the Hunger Games, my recommendation is to read it in publishing order. Even though Sunrise on the Reaping and Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes are technically prequels to the whole series, I would recommend reading them afterwards, because I think you get like a different perspective reading it that way. Whereas if you read Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes, then Sunrise on the Reaping, and then the Hunger Games series, you're gonna have way too much information in your brain on how all of this is gonna go down. And it kind of sort of might ruin the ending for you if you do it that way, of like the actual Hunger Games series. So I would recommend going in publishing order first, which I think makes the most sense. Emily Henry, Great Big Beautiful Life. I love Emily Henry. This was published this year. This was one of her newly published things. I like the book. I think it was a great time. It's not S tier, unfortunately. I read reviews where people talked about it being very similar to The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, but obviously at this point I had not read that book, so I could not compare. I thought it was great. I thought that it followed just like any other Emily Henry love story where they meet, there's a lot of tension, and they just hook up at some point, and then suddenly they're together. I felt like the ending was a bit weird. I do remember I ranted about that in the Discord. I just felt like it was a very abrupt ending, and everyone was just like, tee hee hee, we're all just gonna move on with our lives. Like, wait, are you sure about that? So yeah. I'm between B and C. I'll do B. I liked it, but I feel like the ending was a bit weird. Like, we're just gonna let this happen? Okay. And then we're just suddenly just gonna like skip ahead and do this and this. Like, okay. I think my child is awake. Hang on. No. Sorry, I hear squeaking, so I think it's her. Baby's taking a nap while I film. So, we're gonna put that in B tier. Again, ending was kind of weird. We're just gonna go with it. Just Last Night, Mari McFarlane. This was a 4-star for me. I thought it was really good. Some of the characters did kind of piss me off just a little bit. I don't think it was A tier. I'm gonna keep it in B. If you go into this thinking that's gonna be a cutesy love story, it's not. It is a little bit morbid. Death is like the main topic here, and it's just got like this, the whole time I was reading it, even though like it was about this person trying to like move past their grief and like move forward, there were a lot of things that just like didn't make sense to me. I'm like, oh, you would do that? Are you sure about that? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, I'm confused. But then also, there was a lot of character growth with the female main character. But again, some things just happened. I'm like, really? We're gonna do that now? Okay. Death by Dumpling. I've talked about this before. I thought it was kind of cute. We're going B tier. The reason this is B tier is because it's just a cutesy little book. It's short. It takes place in my hometown, actually. So you'd have to read it to find out. But it takes place in my hometown. And for anyone who's going to want to go to this place and like see if it's a real place, it is not. My friend did some exploring and she thinks that she found the inspiration for the book, but it's not actually. The book is set in a town, but the place that we think it was the inspiration is actually like 2 towns over from where we grew up. So we're really confused on all of this. It was really weird to hear them talk about my neighborhood and like know where these places are, and like it's weird. It's a cute little murder mystery type book. Apparently there's 12 books in this series. I'm not going to continue the series. I just wanted to read it because I thought it was kind of fun. I gave it a 3-star rating. And would I read it again? Probably. It was cute. I would recommend it to people. It does have a good audiobook. I did feel like the narrator was going a little too hard on her fake Chinese accent, but overall pretty good. Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. I think we're gonna put it there. Good book. She's worked on her writing. She's definitely refined her writing. She's much better at storytelling. So I did enjoy that. I found myself enjoying it. Again, like I talked about with Ali Hazelwood earlier, she does have a tendency to ramble and have a lot of inner monologue with her female main character. It's a female main character who is set as a woman in STEM at Stanford. And I believe in this book she references her old characters from the Love Hypothesis, which does kind of freak me out just a teeny bit. There's a lot of stuff that's a bit interesting in this book. Would I tell everyone to? I definitely think it's a book. You gotta be prepared for a lot of the sexual stuff that happens. If you're not, well, I guess that's a later problem for you. It was just unnecessarily long. I felt like it was way too long. It could have been summarized a lot sooner. I feel like there's a lot of stuff that happened that we didn't really need to care about for a book. But here we are, caring about it, reading about it. It was there. I give it 3 stars. Solid book, but it doesn't make me want to pick up more Ali Hazelwood books. She's gotten very much into the smut side of the world, and I'm just not there. I'm not really into that, so I had to drop it. 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I really liked it. I do think it's a book I'm going to enjoy. I'm going to put that in S tier. I like Taylor Jenkins Reid. I really liked how she wrote this book. I like the whole plot. I do see the similarities between Great Big Beautiful Life and 7 Husbands, but I will say this book came out first. This one was just released. This one did it better. Okay, if you have to pick between the 2 books, read the 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. The first S tier, I know. I gave it 4 stars. I didn't think it deserved a 5-star because the ending. Again, we're just gonna like let that happen. Okay. Whatever. But overall, I kind of saw where it was going. I liked it. I think that with this one, the premise behind why this person is sharing their story has much more meaning than why the famous person in this book is sharing her story. I think this one makes so much more sense. It's much deeper. It hits the emotions a lot harder, and just well done. I like it. Again, I'm kind of like, could it go down to A tier? Maybe. But I do think that this is a book I'm going to remember. This is a book I'm going to recommend to people. I actually purchased it and it is on the shelf somewhere right over here. Therefore, I'm gonna put it up there. Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. I have heard so much about this author. People have talked about her. People have raved about her. So I wanted to try her books. Her other books just, I don't know, this was just what popped up. I believe this is a new release. This came out, I believe, this past year. And I thought it was cute. I can see why people like Abby Jimenez. She does kind of give me similar vibes to like Emily Henry and like Ashley Poston and like the cutesy little romance. Like, kind of forced together, like it's gonna happen type thing. I gave it 3 stars. Would I say it's the best book in the world? No. Am I gonna recommend it to people? You're gonna go here. It's just okay. It's just there. It's good, but there were some things about like the characters that kind of pissed me off, especially the ending. It really pissed me off how they decided to end it and how the characters decided to proceed with their lives. I was just like, in what right mind is this realistic, guys? Like, why are we doing this? So I couldn't in good conscience put that in A tier. I know, B tiers. This is why I said every book this year was like 3 stars. Very mid. Okay. We're going to talk about Alex Astor again. We're going to move you guys over. Okay? Okay. We're going to put this here. Cutesy little summer romance called Summer in the City by Alex Astor. She is obviously known for her Lightlark series. Obviously, as we can tell, I stopped reading that series. I gave up on it. Summer in the City. I wanted to DNF, okay? That's kind of why it's here. How do I say this? So the author in this book, it was her first attempt at a cutesy little romance. It's based in New York City, and it's kind of like a forced close proximity type relationship and like fake dating and all of that, all these like romantic tropes. In the book, the author, Alex Astor, she talks about aphantasia, and I've talked about this with Pink here in Discord and like TikTok and stuff, some videos I've seen. Apparently, from what I've heard and found out, the author claims that she has aphantasia or whatever, it's however you pronounce it, basically where she is unable to picture things. So if you close your eyes and you think of an apple, you can visualize an apple and what that looks like. People with aphantasia see nothing. They cannot visualize at all. So I feel like as an author, that's like a very big no-no. Like, how can you be an author writing books, especially fantasy books, where you have to create these elaborate worlds and this whole magic system and everything else that's going on, and write books? How can you have this and write books? I don't get that. But after finding that out, which was right before I read this book, Summer in the City, that made so much sense as to Lightlark and Nightbane and how I was unable to picture the entire world. And so I kind of want to go back and like skim through like a physical copy to see if I noticed that, but I couldn't visualize the universe in her fantasy series. I couldn't even think about what the female main character looked like. I saw artwork online and I'm like, is that how they look? Is that really how they look? Like, I couldn't visualize anything. It's just like the story's happening and I'm just reading words on a page. And I kind of felt that the same way with Summer in the City. As I was reading it, because I did audiobook and physical book, I actually noticed that the author did not describe locations or the visualization of anything in her book. She didn't describe what her characters really looked like. She gave like a basic description. Oh, blonde hair, blue eyes, tall and muscular. Cool. That could be anyone in the world. Thank you very much. And so she did stuff like that, and it just felt really, really flat for me. Again, I think that there was a lot that she could have done with it. And because she has aphantasia and just like didn't really describe it, it was really just like the plot was moving along. The plots were doing their thing. The characters were just living their lives, and we're just here. The other thing with the book, because I got to the last chapter and I'm like, I have to finish this book. We're here. It's the last chapter. The last chapter was unnecessarily long. I was just like, when is this book going to end? Why is the last chapter like an hour long? Every other chapter has been like 15 minutes max on audiobook. Why are we suddenly at a freaking hour? I don't get it. I didn't understand it. I was just like, I'm done. Yes. Yeah, pretty much. She was kind of like, you know, the thing that did the thing? Yeah, that thing happened. And it's just like, okay. And then like they're supposed to be living in like these really elaborate apartments, and she's like not describing what the neighborhood looks like. Like, girl, you live in New York City. Like, the author lives in New York. How are you not able to describe these elaborate and really cool apartments? I don't get it. Again, it just felt super, super flat for me, and I just was not having it at all. Okay, Water Moon. Again, this is a book that was highly recommended. It was in Barnes & Noble. I've been in there multiple times this year. People have talked about this being staff pick, editor's pick, whatever. People are giving it 5 stars. I don't get it. Okay, I read the synopsis and I'm like, ooh, that sounds so good. Like a little touch of magical realism, like kind of, are we gonna get Midnight Library vibes? Ooh, I like this. What the fuck was this shit? It was not DNF territory, but it was very close. I was bored out of my mind the entire time I'm listening to the audiobook. First off, the audiobook, the author is very monotone. I was like, you gonna put me to sleep while I am driving to work today. I also like found myself, because they were so monotone, I couldn't really focus. The whole time I was like daydreaming and wanting this to be over. That's how you know it's bad. It did have that magical realism element. The ending was weird. I don't feel like there were high stakes. I don't feel like a lot was happening. Like, there was a lot happening, but it also wasn't a lot. Like, it wasn't made out to be like super important. Like, it was, but it wasn't. It's just like, oh wow, this is like super important to the main character, but like you're reading the book and you're just like, okay, and then what? This is important, I guess. I don't know. Like, that was literally just how I felt the entire time. So there's that. It was just like, if you're looking for a cozy read, I guess that's a cozy read. I didn't feel like it was all that great. And maybe this is just the difference of the experience having the audiobook versus the physical book and like reading books. Again, all of these books this year, I've gone back and forth. I start with an audiobook and I might flip to a Kindle for when I have nighttime reading time for a few hours, and then go back to the audiobook when I'm at work. So we're just flip-flopping. And maybe it's just the audiobook experience that I started with, because like then later on I just kind of heard everything in that voice. Nothing was happening. I was like, it exists. We're here. We're not having a great time. We're just existing. That's literally it. That's all it was. So do what you want with that information. Again, it's a very highly recommended book, but it was not my cup of tea. God of the Woods. Again, I rated this 3 stars. I rated Water Moon 3 stars, by the way. I've heard a lot of mixed reviews about God of the Woods. Some of my favorite booktubers that I follow, they rated this book very low. I think some of them might have even DNF'd. I'm gonna put it in B tier. I enjoyed it. I had a good time. I thought it was interesting. It kept my attention. I wanted to know more. I will tell you, if you are going to read this book, do not listen to it on audiobook. The audiobook is good. I don't find issues with the narrators themselves. The issue I have is with how the book is written. So every chapter, you are changing POVs, which is not a bad thing. It's totally fine, in my opinion, especially for this book in particular. You switch POVs every single chapter, but when you switch POVs, you're also time jumping. So you might be in Alice's POV in summer of 1970, and then suddenly you'll be in TJ's POV in 1985. You know, like, you're just time jumping. And so like when you change chapters, they're like Alice summer 1970, and then they continue. Like, it just all kind of flowed together because there wasn't changing of the narrator wasn't changing for chapters. She didn't change the voice that she used. It was very, very confusing on audiobook. Like, I legitimately, every time I finished a chapter, I had to pause and like physically pull up the audiobook on my phone to see what chapter and what the title of it was, because I was just not able to follow along. And I'm like listening to it, I'm like, whose effing POV am I listening to right now? And what year is it? In the book, Kindle, physical, you can actually read it and see. So God of the Woods, I would very much recommend. Read that. Kindle or physical book, that is your best option. You might hear a child here in a minute. She just woke up from her nap and my husband's grabbing her. I can hear footsteps. Aw, she's trying to grab. I see her trying to grab her nightlights. Okay, we can put that down now. I can hear her. She's screaming. Like, fun screaming. So God of the Woods. Yeah. I would recommend it. I liked it. It's kind of like a murder mystery ×2 wrapped together. They're like overlapping stories. A lot of parallels. I do feel like some characters and their POVs were thrown in there just to throw you off. And honestly, a few of them were completely unnecessary and for like literally absolutely no reason. I don't know why those POVs were there. We could have completely deleted those chapters and they would have added nothing to the story. Again, I think they were just there to confuse the reader and try to make you think that somebody else who done it, you know? But honestly, I feel like it was unnecessarily long. You could have deleted those chapters and we would have all lived on with our lives. The ending was a bit weird. I've read some reviews and people did not like how it was a very open-ended ending and you kind of have to guess what's happening. And I kind of feel the same way. I like when they spell it out for you, like, oh, this is what happened. This is what happened. Da, da, da. I had to read reviews to like fully understand what happened because I was like very confused at the end and I feel like they should have wrapped it up a little bit better. I don't love the ending. I feel like there would have been I feel like there should have been a better epilogue than what there was, but it just was kind of annoying. So, sounds like love. I like the book. I just got it today. It's Fairy Loot, special edition, signed by the author. I like it. Do I love it? No. But do I like it? Yes. Would I recommend it to people? Yes. Would I say it's kind of like Emily Henry? When I'm in an Emily Henry mood, I want a cutesy little romance, a little palette cleanser, I'm gonna recommend that. I thought this one was pretty good. I liked all the music references. I thought that was really fun, really creative. Again, I just really liked it. Again, with Ashley Poston, she likes that whole magic realism type. I believe that's what it's called. Clearly, I focused on that this year. Like that kind of like magic realism element. These two characters, they can like hear each other's thoughts and talk to each other that way. And it's kind of cool, kind of weird. Again, kind of like some of the other books, like with Ali Hazelwood books when you listen on audiobook. It's a little hard to tell when the characters are having their own inner monologue versus when they're talking to each other, versus when they're mind talking to each other. It gets a little confusing. So do what you want with that information. I believe there are 2 narrators, voice actors for this book. So there's a female one and a male one, and they got great voices. I hate when female narrators try to do a male voice. Sometimes it just is horrible. Sometimes it's great, but sometimes it's horrible, and I'm like, ugh. And I hate when there's a male voice actor narrator and he tries to do a female voice. I'm just like, stop, please don't do the weird high pitched thing. It's gross. They didn't do that here, so they were good. Thought it was cute. Dungeons and Drama. I don't know where I'm gonna put you. I enjoyed it. I gave this one a 4-star rating. I think I'm gonna put that. No, I think it's gonna go in B tier. I liked it. Again, I gave it a 4-star rating. Clearly it was great. It's a very short, quick read. You could probably finish this in one day. Again, I believe it's a YA book. So it's definitely teenagers, definitely cringy high school romance, love situation. There are some D&D references. I thought that was kind of cool. I learned some stuff. Don't know how useful it actually is, but I learned a few things. I thought the whole story was just overall very cute. Very cute, very short, great. Again, great palette cleanser. That's it. Nothing else to it. Since I believe it's a YA, there is not any like smut scenes, so you're safe if you're not looking for that. The reason it's not an A tier is because, again, I'm probably gonna forget about it in a year. So I'm already starting to forget about it. And I read that, I think, in like November. So not much going on there. Actually, no, I read that in December. I see it on my last updated December 9th. But yeah, great book. Apparently there's another book in the series. They took 2 other characters that are in like the world, the universe, and they have them having their cringy little high school love. Would I read that one? I don't know. Maybe if I'm looking for a palate cleanser. But I have heard from, again, some YouTubers and TikTokers who I watch are into books. They've talked about their feelings on it, and they felt like it was just like a cheap knockoff of the first one, which a lot of sequels feel that way. And that's kind of why I don't want to pick it up. But if I'm desperate and I need something, maybe I will. Quicksilver. Oh my gosh. Hang on. I need to take a sip for this. I rated it 3 stars. It's a very thick, very hefty fantasy romance. I didn't love it. I think the smut was pretty good. But overall, I was just kind of like, I'm not going to remember this. Once I've read some more stories, I'm not going to remember this at all. And I don't really care for it. And I know it's a series, and this next book in the series I think just came out this year. It's called Brimstone. I don't have any desire to continue it. I don't feel like anything was accomplished. It left off on a cliffhanger that I didn't care about. I feel like if your book is leaving me off in that place, I don't really care. And then I've also read some reviews about Brimstone and the next book, and again, I feel like I'm good. The whole time I felt like a lot of nothing was happening. I felt like the sex scenes were just repetitive and nothing was happening, so I didn't care. I'm probably not going to recommend this to you guys. Definitely not a book I would recommend, hence why it's going to be put there. I don't think it was as bad as the other 3 in the DNF pile, but it was okay. Fantasy romance, heavy on the smut. There's a little bit of plotting over there and happening, but honestly, is it anything worth caring about? Not really. Not really, guys. I'm so sorry. Let's just move on. A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. Again, this was again, I like Ashley because she's kind of like Emily Henry. Has a lot of cutesy romance books. You would probably think I put this higher. I think I gave this a 3 star. I'm gonna give it a C tier. Would I recommend it? Not really. While I really like the author, I didn't love this story. I felt like the entire time I was very confused, and maybe it's because I was listening to it on audiobook, but it just wasn't doing anything for me, and I was just very confused about what was happening and the placement of everything. I figured it out later on when it was kind of sort of spelled out for me, but even then it felt weird, and then the ending just fell flat for me. I didn't love how it ended. Like, I kind of saw that coming, but it was just very weird. A lot of sexual tension. I just couldn't do it. But yeah, I didn't really love it. I get it. But like, I think that the female main character is really obsessed with this one author for absolutely no reason. And again, if you get to the ending, you'll understand why I think it's kind of weird. I don't want to spoil it, so we're just gonna move on to the next ones. Okay. These are the last books I read of 2025. The first one, this is when I started picking up Frida McFadden. I was looking for something else to finish out the year, something quick, something easy. I figured The Housemaid was good. People love this book. I've heard people rave about it. It's even been made into a movie, as we have talked about. So, I picked it up. I also paid, I don't know if I paid for, but I think I got Kindle Unlimited for like a month. So I decided to try this out because it's available on that, and I could not put it down. I listened to the audiobook. I read it on my Kindle. I went back and forth. Could not put it down. I'm putting this in S tier. I would recommend this to people. I would recommend Frida McFadden in general if you're like into the whole thrillers, but this was my first book that I've read by this author. I gave it a 5 star. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it had some good twists and turns. I did not expect the twist that happened, but looking back, like, it kind of makes sense. And now that I've read that book, I kind of had an idea of like what to expect with this author. Expect the unexpected. What you don't think is going to happen is probably what's going to happen. She's that kind of author. Then the next one I picked up is The Teacher. Again, I've heard that this is pretty good. I've seen this around in the stores. I've also heard The Boyfriend. I've heard more of the Housemaid series. I didn't feel like continuing the Housemaid series. I feel like it's not really necessary to continue that same type of story over and over and over again. I know she probably did it to work with the movie industry, who's obviously making them into movies now. I'm gonna watch the movie and I'm gonna let you guys know how I felt about it, but I thought it was interesting. Apparently the movie, they changed some stuff, so I'm curious. I've seen some screenshots. Like, they changed the overall look of the attic room, and the way that the movie portrayed it is not how I portrayed it in my head. And then apparently Frida McFadden went online and posted a picture of her attic, which was used as the inspiration, and she's like, this is how I meant to write it. And literally the picture she posted is exactly how I envisioned it, which then brings me back to my later point about Alex Astor, where if you're a good author, you can set the scene. You should be able to write that out. And whatever you're thinking of, I should be able to picture the exact same thing, or at least something very, very similar. And she did that. The way she wrote that is exactly how I pictured it in my head. And I'm like, so that's how I felt about that. The Teacher. Again, thriller, twists and turns. Weird stuff happening. Like, what the bleep? The whole time, I'm just like, what is this? Like, what the heck is happening? Like, you're so confused and you're just like, oh, I hate these characters. I hate these characters. Because she's writing you to hate these characters. And then it like ends up, everything flips and you're just like, whoa, that was not supposed to happen. But you also kind of had a feeling that was probably going to happen. So I don't think it's S tier. I do think it's A tier. I did really enjoy it. I would recommend it to people. Again, I would recommend Frida McFadden in general. And I did think that there were some effed up elements of this book. Especially like the very ending, the twist. I was like, did not see that coming. I did not see it, but I made that connection. I was like, wait a second. Great for audiobook, great to read on the Kindle. Again, would recommend. I'm really into Frida McFadden right now, but I do feel like because her books have so many twists and turns and they're like such a roller coaster, I don't know if I want to keep reading them back to back, and I probably won't. So I'll probably take a break in between her books, which is why I did take a break and try something different before picking up another one of her books, which I'll probably do after I finish this one. Because if you're in my Twitch stream, you know this is the first book of 2025, and we've already talked about it and where I'm at. But yeah, this is the first one. We're trying something different this year. So let's move on to the next one. The next one is The Boyfriend. This was recommended to me by my hairstylist. I love her. She's absolutely amazing. And she's been really into Frida McFadden as well. Again, I like this. I would recommend it to people. I think I gave this a 3 stars, like between 3.5 to 4-ish. I'm going to put an A tier. I'd recommend it. Do I think it's superior? No. Did I see the twist at the end? No, I did not see that coming. I never would have guessed that that was going to happen. But oh my gosh, that was insane. But it was a good one. It was also very messed up. Honestly, I finished these 3 books and I was just sitting here thinking, like, how does this author think of this stuff? And then how do you sit down and write about it in such great detail? I was so concerned. I'm like, also, is she okay? Is she writing any of this from like personal experience? Does she need a therapist? Does she have a therapist? Does she have like multiple therapists to talk about this stuff with? Because these are, I believe they're classified as psychological thrillers, which they kind of are, because they mess you up in the head a little bit when you read it. So think about that. Think about that for a sec. Okay. Last book. So today is January 2nd. Okay. I hated this thing. I hated this book. Branded. I hated it. The only reason I picked it up is because when I was in Walmart one day, I was looking for a book for my friend for her birthday because I was having a birthday dinner, and I was like, oh, do I want to get her a book to go with her gift? So I got her a few things. And I'm like, oh, maybe a book would be good because we both read and pick up books. We have a little book club. And I was like, oh, I don't know what to pick her up. Like the books that she has on her want to read list were not available at Walmart. And I was like, oh, what else is there? So I was just kind of like browsing, and there was another girl browsing in the same aisle. She turned around and she talked to me, and she was really cool about it. She had Branded in her hands. She was going to pick it up, and she's like, oh yeah, it's kind of cool. It's like this like cowboy love story type situation. They're like mailing each other letters, and he ends up being kind of creepy and like branding her somehow, and like it's this whole like weird effed up dark romance type thing. And I'm like, ooh, dark romance. It's been a while since I've picked up a dark romance. If you know, you know from previous years. I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. So I read the synopsis. I think I read the synopsis, but like didn't comprehend the synopsis. I don't know why. My brain just like completely just went like right over my head. The synopsis just didn't even think about it. So yeah, this girl in Walmart, she recommended it to me. She was buying the book. She's like, I've heard good things. I'm gonna try it out. And I was like, oh, cool. And then after she left, I was like, I guess I'll try it out. So I grabbed the book and got it. It's somewhere on the shelf, probably on the bottom at this point. I'm gonna get rid of it. It's a dark romance. It is a dark romance. If you are not into dark stuff, don't even consider it. When I say dark, there's a lot of trigger warnings. Like, you know a book is dark if they have an entire page of trigger warnings in the beginning of the book before you start reading it. There were a ton of trigger warnings. I'm putting this down here. I wanted to DNF. I almost DNF'd. My husband was mad at me for my original rating because I had originally rated this book a 2. A 2-star. Again, not like the best thing in the world, but I had rated it a 2-star, which I rated it a 2-star originally because, hear me out, I felt that while I did not DNF the book and I wanted to DNF the book, I didn't DNF it. I feel like if I'm going to DNF it, if I make it to the end and I was like the whole time just like, I'm going to DNF this thing, it would have been a 1-star. But I gave it a 2 because I was like, well, you know, there were some elements that like I wanted to keep reading, but then like the smut scenes were like, I hated them. And like towards the end, I'm just like, I'm over it, but I'm already here. So like, let's just finish it. And like, I'm not having a good time. So clearly it's gonna be less than a 3-star no matter what. Anyway, I went back and changed my rating to a 1 because hubby was like, girl, you need to change it. Like, he's like, I don't understand why you did that. I'm like, well, you don't need to understand my rating scale. It's only for me. Well, apparently I changed it. So we changed it. It is now down to a 1-star. I wish I could have DNF'd this. I did not like it. It had a laundry list of trigger warnings. It is like major Stockholm syndrome. And like the main character knows what Stockholm syndrome is and that this is what they're probably subject to, but like they also don't give a bleep about it. And I'm like, this is like so messed up. And like, you have a laundry list of daddy issues, and now you've got Stockholm syndrome, and then just like certain characters at the end of the book just poof disappear. And I'm like, this person was like so important and like the reason why you were put in this situation, and she just up and disappears. Like, they kind of tell you what's gonna happen, but then they tell you some other things about what's gonna happen, then she just disappears. Okay. And then, like, there's a lot of stalking. There's a lot of, like, weird stuff. There's a lot of things that just, like, made me cringe and just made me go, ew, like, that's kind of gross. And, again, I just kind of wanted to ask, like, is this author okay? How did you come up with this? For people who are, like, dark romance authors, like, how'd you come up with a lot of this? I'm kind of curious. Just, like, asking for everyone who reads your book and wants to know. I just felt like it was way too much for me. Towards the end of the book, the later half of the book, I felt like the smut scenes were very much just like copy pasted from other parts. So that's kind of why I got through it so quickly on New Year's Eve. I felt that like the author literally just copy pasted towards the end the same scenes and just like changed a few things about what happened, but it was the same stuff happening over and over. There was also a point where I think like in the first quarter of the book, maybe like before we hit the halfway point, just before. Oh my gosh, the amount of times that the male main character said juicy thighs, I had the immediate ick for him. So like audiobook wise, his voice, audiobook, the voice actor. Great, wonderful voice. might have been better if I had continued listening to it on audiobook. Like, just for that, like, deep, gruff, like, cowboy voice, you know? I probably might have been able to continue it and liked it more. And, like, there was a female narrator as well for the girl parts. But, like, reading it on the pages, I'm like, oh, this is so cringy. Oh, this is so weird. And, like, I'm not here to kink shame, but I was also kind of like, this is, like, bad. Yeah, and just, like, juicy thighs. It was so weird because, like, there was, like, this, like, a few chapters of the book where the author kept using that phrase, juicy thighs, over and over and over again. And then it is never heard again. Until maybe, like, one page randomly towards the end of the book, they just, like, throw in, like, one little time where they talk about something being juicy, and that's it. So I'm like, you use the word juicy thigh, the words juicy thighs, like, 10 times on one page. And suddenly we never hear it again. I was so confused. And, like, to me, it kind of sounded like, because I've heard this happening with authors, where they write the book and then they go to publishing, but then when they go to publishing and, like, they start editing and doing all these things, a lot of times they rewrite certain chapters and try to meld them together. I'm wondering if, like, the first half of the book, they left pretty much how the author had originally written it, and then the later half, they changed the smut scenes, they changed what was going to happen, and the author rewrote those, but because they might have rewritten that last bit, they probably removed some of the words that they were using. Like, they probably used juicy thighs at some point later in the book. It was very, very weird. I was just not having a good time, and the only reason I finished it was because I was so close to the end and I was trying to hit one more book for New Year's Eve. So here we are. Yeah. I'm really hoping that next year's 2025 reads, we have more to talk about and we have more books. I can't guarantee anything. Clearly, the last time we did this was, what, I don't know if it was 2024 or 2023. I had 27 books as well. Clearly, I'm, like, very consistent at, like, 27-ish books every year. So maybe we'll continue with that trend. We'll see what happens. And yeah, that's everything I read. I'm hoping that maybe this coming year is gonna be a better reading year now that I've kind of, like, gotten back into reading postpartum. Like, my things were, like, very weird last year postpartum. I was definitely going through a lot of, like, hormonal changes and, like, changes in life, like trying to adapt to being a mom and, like, balancing a full-time job plus being a parent to this infant and now toddler who requires a lot of attention. It was just a lot. And I just am hoping that, like, after having this year where I explored a lot of new genres, a lot of new authors, and things like that, I'm hoping that maybe this next year I can start tailoring my TBR more to what I'm actually going to enjoy. And hopefully I can have a better 2025 wrap for you guys. So we're going to end the recording portion of today's Twitch stream. So if you guys are watching this recording, make sure to subscribe to my channel if you guys want more book content. Also, make sure to check out my other social media accounts. I go by the same username on all of my socials, so feel free to check those out. And I'm still trying to balance content for YouTube and posting videos. So yeah, just make sure you guys subscribe. Stay tuned. I hopefully will post more book videos as time goes on now that I'm settling into life as a mom and working full-time and making content without disrupting my child's life too much. So yeah, that's where we're at. Thank you guys for tuning into this video and essentially this VOD. Make sure to hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I'm going to post videos, because again, I don't post very often. So make sure you guys do that. Follow my socials and I'll see you guys soon. I do post on TikTok. I do post on Instagram. You can find me active on those two socials the most. Twitch is very hit or miss. Sorry. So thanks for being here for the YouTube portion of this video. And yeah, I'll see you guys